Hello and welcome to the Couple of Pints Podcast. Today we're here at Meyrick Park Golf Club in Bournemouth and we're joined by Sam Harrop. Sam is a comedy golf musician and he has got some fantastic stories that you are going to love. Let's get into the episode. Sam, cheers.
Cheers. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Thanks for coming on. So, Sam Harrop, if you were to introduce yourself to someone who didn't know who Sam Harrop was, how would you do that?
I'd say I'm the guy who makes up weird songs about golf, or specifically about golfers, I should say.
That's to be fair, that's better than anything. I've been thinking about this all week, and I couldn't. In my head, I was like, parody songs about golf? No, that's unfair because they're very good.
Yeah, also true. That's also accurate.
So for me, it's been like, right, okay, how do we introduce Sam? Let's ask him. Sam could, and that's a very robust and solid answer, I would say. So you've become like a C-list famous, as I think that's your own words.
I go like Z, probably.
Judging by a Forbes article that I read about him.
Oh, yeah.
But who's got a Forbes article written about him, Sam? How did that come about?
Crazy, yeah. I don't know. Really, some guy just reached out to me, the guy who writes the articles, and he just said, I'd like to write something on you, you're free for a chat.
Yeah.
And I was like, Forbes? Yep, okay, I'll do that.
I was going to say, you're thinking, have I won the lottery?
Yeah, very, very bizarre.
So, going back to your sort of self as a golfer, as a person, where did the love for golf come from, and sort of obviously how has that progressed into being what it's become?
Yeah, well, I started out really, it was just going to the pitching park with my parents as a kid. I just loved, I don't know, I kind of like being out in the open. I like the competitive, because I've got two older brothers, so we'd always like, trying to beat each other, that kind of thing.
Yep.
So it was just, I just got hooked from there really. And even though I never really properly committed myself in terms of, having lessons, playing a lot, joining a club, I've never really done that. But I've always liked when I get a chance to play with my mates, that's
pure Bubba Watson, no lessons, just pure vibes.
Yeah. Maybe not quite with the skill levels of Bubba, but yeah.
Yeah, he's not a bad person to try and emulate. Brilliant. So ultimately, golf is a big part of your life, but music is also a pretty major part of your life. I think if you look at yourself on YouTube, I was looking through your channel and going back, there's a lot of content pre-golf ever appearing on that channel.
Yeah.
Cover songs, and I have to say, you're very good at what you've done, but never quite had the success that
absolutely
of the golf. And where did the sort of music come from? Was that an early childhood thing, or?
Yeah, so music was always an early. So I think I was 8 years old when I started having piano lessons.
Yeah.
And I started sort of singing around the same time. I was in like the school choir and stuff like that. The cool kid.
Hey mate, nothing wrong with that. I was in the school choir.
Oh, there you go.
I've always said it was cool anyway.
Yeah. So I was always playing piano and singing from a young age. I just kept doing that, and then I ended up studying music at university. So that was kind of like my big thing really. And golf was just a little hobby on the side. So yeah, it was only much further down the line. Obviously I started doing covers and stuff on YouTube just because I was playing these songs, so I thought I might as well record them and put them out there. And like you say, I didn't really get much traction because there's so many people out there doing the same thing who are a lot better than me. So then at some point I just got this idea to do a song about golf. I thought, well, okay, maybe no one else is really doing this, so let's try something different. And then it just took off from there. So yeah.
That makes sense. So with the music thing, obviously the music degree, what was it you wanted to go into? What was it you wanted to be? Or was it just a case of, I'm good at this, I might as well try and see if it's a profession I can forge out of it?
It was very much the latter. I never really kind of I never went to university thinking, okay, I'm going to get my music degree and I'm going to do this. It was like, okay, music's the only thing I'm good at. So I'm going to do a music degree and then I'll figure it out later on. And I never really did figure it out, I've got a full-time job, but I work for a sheet music publisher, which is kind of a little niche in the music world. So that's, and it's actually quite hard to get a job in music, So
I was going to say that is a route into music.
Exactly, there's a route, but there's not. So I was lucky to get that, really. But yeah, so I never really had any real idea. Oh yeah, I'm definitely going to do this, and it just what happens is kind of like more of my kind of theory on life.
Makes sense. So piano is obviously my instrument. Are you one of these musicians that can just pick up anything and have a bash at it, or?
No, I wouldn't go that far. I mean, the first band that I was ever in, I played drums in.
Okay.
And then I used to strum a bit of guitar, when I was at school, like everyone does, right?
Yeah.
And I used to play cello when I was at university as well, but I never really, it came to a point where I was like...
But that one gets the girls, did it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but yeah, so it got to the point where I was like, I haven't got time to actually dedicate myself to two instruments, so the cello was the one to go, because piano is just so much more versatile and there's so much more you can do with it. So.
You're not lumping it around either.
Exactly.
With the piano,
that whole
fixed.
Thing. Yeah.
So, realistically then, so did you ever sort of think you could get into music as a professional musician? Was that something that you had an ambition for? Was that sort of the route you wanted to take, or was it a little bit less than that?
Yeah,
obviously?
I mean, there was a time where I kind of thought, my dream job would have been like to be like a singer-songwriter. I used to write my own songs and stuff sort of after, during university, after university, and I kind of thought that would be the dream. Like, okay, if somehow people start liking my music and buying my music, that I might be able to make it as a music. But I knew in my heart of hearts that was a big long shot. So.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's rock hard. I mean, the thing is, it's like what you find with music is the supremely talented get on, and then the supremely untalented get on, and everything in between. You can have brilliant musicians, brilliant talent, and they just get nowhere near the break. And obviously, I mean, to be fair, X Factor and things like that haven't helped that. I mean, I think it's restored a little bit in the last few years since X Factor's been canned. We're starting to see a bit more talent.
Yeah, I know a lot of really talented musicians, much more talented than me, who haven't made it in the music world, who probably harboured dreams of making it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hear you for sure.
So obviously with golf, you sort of, as a kid, you've got into it, you got into the pitch and putt. Did you sort of watch much golf on the telly as a kid growing up, and is that sort of where sort of passion for it came from?
Yeah, well, I used to watch the majors. I remember sitting down. I remember watching. Must have been. I guess I was probably about 13, so maybe say 95, 96 Open and Masters. I remember watching with my dad. So I always used to watch those. I didn't used to watch kind of the regular tour events until that probably started about 15 years ago, I reckon. I started properly watching pretty much everything, which I now do. But when I was a kid, the majors, and I used to love watching, watching these supremely talented golfers and thinking that'd be cool if you could be that good. But again, knowing that that's never going to happen. Yeah,
I mean, was there ever sort of a moment where you thought, I wonder if I could go and be involved in golf in one way or another as a capacity, sort of, because there's plenty of jobs around golf that aren't just golfers.
I know it never really struck me, to be honest, as something, because I was never actually talented at all at golf. I've always been bad. So I think that most of the people who end up working in golf, I've got a reasonable ability.
They're normally good at golf.
So, exactly.
Yeah.
Never really a thing that I kind of thought, I could go into the golf world. So it's funny that I've kind of ended up, sort of half in the golf world. Yeah.
No, you're firmly in the golf world, Sam. There's no doubts in my head. So what's your sort of favourite thing about golf? If someone sort of said to you, right, if there's one thing about golf that drives you to the game and you think, helps you explain the game to other people, what would it be?
The thing that I enjoy the most about it?
Yeah.
I think it's just, I just love the kind of serenity of around a golf, that you're just out, all your kind of worries, all your kind of stresses, your work, whatever it is, kind of goes away when you're on a golf course.
Yeah.
It's just a sort of escapism.
Yes.
And then the second thing is that every round you play could be your best round ever, right?
Yep.
There's always that potential that it could be, even if you went and shot a 59, which you or I are never going to do, you could still hit 58.
Yep.
You can always be your best round ever, which I've kind of liked about that. There's always, you're driving against your own personal best.
It's like it's like a self-torture I find with golf. I mean, I've played golf for the best part of 10, 11 years, and there's days where I stand in the golf course and I'm like, what am I doing here? And you want to smash the tree, you want to smash everything to bits, but it's exactly that. You've nailed it in one. It's that possibility that, oh, hang on, I've had 3 good holes here. I've got 2 pars and a birdie. I'm flying.
Yeah.
And you can go from completely awful to brilliant in a moment.
Yep.
So obviously, you've nailed that point with golf, and obviously it's sort of part of your life. So you watch every tour event now?
Definitely. So I'd say I watch every every PGA Tour event because they're the ones that are in the evening here. It's like the perfect time for us to watch it, sit down in the evening, put it on for a few hours. And I try and watch as much of the DP World Tour as I can, although sometimes because of the timings, kind of a block in the middle of the day, and you got like young kids that I've got, you're kind of out doing stuff. So I end up kind of maybe dipping in and out of that a bit more. But PGA Tour, I certainly watch every week.
So does your wife enjoy golf?
She hates it.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no love for golf.
So
whatsoever.
do you have a little room for yourself out the way where you put the golf on?
Well, typically what we do is we're watching like a box set or something on the big TV, and I've got the iPad there like on mute in front of me. So I'm pretending I'm watching the TV, but I'm actually watching the golf.
I can understand that, Sam, but as someone who often sit watching golf with people that don't like watching golf, it's very much the iPad comes out.
You need that second screen.
Yeah, definitely. Have you been to many sort of tour events? Is that something you've tried to get to? Or?
I haven't been to many actually. So I've been to over here. I've been to Wentworth a couple of times over here. Not for a little while, mind. And then in the States, I went to Bethpage one year that they had the Barclays there with one of the FedEx Cup events. I remember going to that. That was probably a good 15 years ago now actually. And then I went to professionally, I guess I went to the President's Cup in September, just gone, which was pretty awesome. So yeah, that's all.
We'll come on to that. I've got a few questions about the President's Cup.
But yeah, so that's that. But that's all I've been to in terms of tour events. But I plan to go to more this year if I can.
If you get allowed out.
Yeah, exactly.
If you get a free pass.
Yeah.
So, am I right in thinking you did run a golf tips website?
I did, yeah, a while ago, yeah.
Trying to bash the bookies every week.
Yeah, so that was probably, I reckon I set that up probably 2011, I think, and I did that for maybe 4 or 5 years. And then it just got to a point where, I was doing pretty well actually. First couple of years I did really well, and then it sort of tapered off. And it kind of, my success tapering off also came at the same point where I was like, God, this is so much work. Like every week, put out a preview.
It's stressful.
That I just kind of thought, actually, you know what? I kind of, I need to. I can't spend the time on this anymore.
Did you get many people sort of using that website and
it built up a bit of a community actually? Yeah, built up a bit, and really, actually, that kind of following was what I kind of took with me when I started doing the music stuff. There were people who followed me for the golf betting, but they're obviously golf enthusiasts as well, so that kind of helped me when I put out the first song. I already had a bit of a following from those old days, so actually in a way it was like a springboard that I had that already.
So yeah, straight away you've got a few people.
Yeah, a few people.
I know, Sam.
You're not sort of sending something out and no one's listening, Yeah.
Makes sense. Favourite golfer? Do I need to ask that question, or is it obvious?
No, it's really not obvious. And you know what? And don't judge me for this, but it's actually changed recently because.
What's Tony done?
Well, so growing up, and I confess, it was always Phil Mickelson.
Okay.
Because I'm a left-hander, and he was the person. If I was watching like the Masters, whatever, and he was the guy I was rooting for because he was guys like me, right? He played from that side of the ball, but not many people did.
Yeah.
And he's very creative. He's a great player to watch.
Best chipper in the world.
Exactly. I mean,
by a mile. Yeah.
He'll drive into the trees and then he'll hit it to like 3 feet, and he may miss the putt. So he's a great player to watch. Like kind of recent events, I've kind of started to question. Like I don't know, it was.
We'll come on to that juicy stuff as well. There's plenty of that.
But then Tony, obviously, with what happened with Tony Finau, when I did the first song about him, and he, engaged with it, he kind of commented and everything, and I really that lifted the whole thing, and that was amazing, really, because had he not done that, I don't think any of this would have really happened, because it was the fact that he retweeted it to like his followers that suddenly gave it that much bigger exposure. And also he was also saying to people, he was almost saying, this is great, you should listen, so that helped me. So overnight he became my favourite golfer because of that.
I see. So I was right. It is Tony.
Yeah, it is Tony. Yeah. No, he hasn't done anything. So it's remained him since that day.
Tony, you'll be relieved to know.
Your place is safe. Number 1 spot.
Brilliant. So obviously Tony Finau. He's a good guy. I mean, very sort of personable guy. You listen to him, you see him. A couple of years ago, obviously, you came up with the idea of when will Tony Finau win again. He'd gone a few years without winning a PGA Tour event, and for some reason or other, you decided on the 7th of February 2020, I'm going to release this video. This was pre-COVID, so people weren't locked up.
Yeah.
What was the inspiration for that? Where did it come from? I'm a little bit sort of lost as to how that happened, Sam.
Honestly, I wish I could tell you the moment that I had kind of had this click, but I've often kind of come up with songs in my head about like friends and family, like, you know, kind of rewording a well-known song to kind of take the mick out of someone.
Brilliant.
That's something I've always done, and I don't know, I just got this idea in my head. I think so that the song that I parody, "Can't Fight This Feeling," had just been used on the John Lewis advert that Christmas before, so it was a couple of months before. So maybe it was somewhere that song was in my subconscious, the melody was in my subconscious, and then I started thinking, God, Tony Finau, you know,
started buying 5 or 6 toasters a day.
Yeah. But I was just sort of thinking, this guy is supremely talented, and he hasn't won much. He's won once, and it was however many years previously, 4 years, and he'd had all these run-off finishes, and he just finished second just lost in the playoff at the Phoenix Open. And I just sort of got this idea, when will Tony Finau win again, to that tune. It just literally that tune came in my head. Yeah. And then I thought, well, you know what, I'm just going to flesh this out. I'm going to do 2 verses, 2 choruses, and I'll, if it's any good, I'll record it. And once I'd written the lyrics down, I thought, oh, okay, actually, people might like this. Yeah. They may not, but they might. So I thought, there's nothing to lose. Let's record it. I'll put it up on my Twitter. It might get 10 likes. It might get 1,000 likes. Who knows? Yep. And it just blew up. And so that was completely unexpected, really, because I kind of thought, oh yeah, some of my fellow kind of golf nerds might appreciate it, but I didn't think it would kind of break through into the wider golf community. I
think people like parody things, though. It's like there's a beauty to it, because it is an art form. To be able to rip off a song and then change the lyrics completely to make it sound about something completely different. I think that is an art. I think that's something that I've got mates that are good musicians that can do it, that can, sort of off the top of their head throw a song out, and I'm like, wow, that's impressive. And I think that's sort of, if you get the right place to put that, you're going to get success. Yeah, and I suppose you could say that about a lot of things, but
maybe so. Although the strange thing is, I've seen other people doing it in other worlds where it doesn't get the same traction, and I don't know whether that's because I wonder if there's 2 things. Maybe because golf I didn't really have anyone else doing that at the time, not that I was aware of anyway. Yeah. And secondly, because golf is this kind of very traditional, quite sort of slow game, and there's so much room.
Golf needed a bit of colour.
Exactly, I think that's it. It kind of it's the sort of game that there's so much space to actually put something in like that. Do you know what I mean? It's not like football where it's all like you get your 90 minutes. It's all full. It felt like golf is just that slow pace that needs something to every now and again just lift it.
I'm just delighted that it was someone who was British that did it as well, because I think the British sort of feel about golf, and obviously we're sat in a golf club now, is that generally Britain is about sort of traditional values, you can't wear trainers in a golf club, you can't do this, you can't do that. It's like a list of what you can't do rather than a list of what you can.
And then look at us here wearing trainers in a golf club.
Jeans and trainers in a golf club. Thanks, Meyrick Park, we do appreciate it. But realistically, what I'm saying is that if you look at it, sort of everyone is always quite, oh well, you're British, and particularly in America. I mean, obviously I've travelled to America a number of times. You always get the "Do you know the Queen" sort of nonsense, the traditionalist stuff. Yeah. And I think that's where you've broke a boundary there, because they've gone, oh, hang on, he's taking the mick out of golf, and he's English, and it's like, I think that sort of it shows that there's a progression there, a little bit more life to it, whereas. You go to America and they'll do anything. Yeah. You go to golf events in America. It is very much mashed potato, get in the hole, all that stuff, and you're like, come on, mate, really? You see a load of pissed off British blokes just stood there with their arms crossed, going. I think there's that, and I think there's also the kind of, we have a slightly different humour, don't we, this side of the pond, and I think we kind of sort of more sort of subtle, a bit more kind of nuanced, and I think people responded to that as well. Whereas if you're kind of going out there and you're almost deliberately being overtly funny, or kind of you're hamming it up too much, and I don't think people responded it so well. But because it's kind of done, in this kind of understated way, I think it sounds very serious when I'm playing. It sounds like a very serious song, but it's not. I think that's
that's maybe why it worked. I don't know.
It's. I mean, I would say it's a mystery, but I really enjoy them. So it's not a mystery because I think they're fantastic. I listen to them, I'm like, this has got everything that I want in one place. Do you know what I mean? It's perfect. Obviously, you followed up the Tony Finau song with songs about Anthony Kim, Bryson, Justin Rose. I mean, obviously, it's a long list now of players that have sort of been covered. Yeah. Have you had any players on any tour request a song off you?
You know what? The only one that's happened, it actually wasn't from the player himself, but Justin Rose's manager actually got in touch.
Oh, really?
And he said, Justin's turning 40 in like a week's time. Would you be able to do a song? I was like, that's not very long to turn around a song. I mean, it's possible, but I was just like, at that time, I think I was going away or something. It was going to be really tight, and I just said to him, look, I love Justin Rose. I'll do a song about him at some point, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do it for his 40th. So in the end, I put that out. I think it was about a year later that I ended up doing a song
for his 41st.
For his 41st. So I think that's the only time it's been requested. Colt Nost got in touch and he said, "Well, you got to do a song about me." And I said, "Oh, that's not how it works. You have to nominate someone else. You know, you say, oh, I think you should do a song about my mate, JT or something. Then I might do it. But you can't request one about yourself, right?"
No, I was going to say I think that it'd be unlikely, but you never know.
Yeah.
Golf is a strange world
That's
at
true.
times.
Yeah.
Augusta National got a song.
I did. Yeah, I did a song about Augusta back in. Yeah, that was that kind of weird year, wasn't it, where nothing was happening and the Masters happened in November.
Yeah.
So I was just
mud balls at Augusta.
That's right. I mean, at that point, I was just sat at home, like everyone, not really doing much. I was like, I've got to do a song about this tournament. It's my favourite event.
Yeah.
I've actually got a bit of time on my hands. I'm going to do one. Yeah.
Did anyone from Augusta ever acknowledge it or mention it, or
not that I'm aware of? No.
I'm sure somewhere in Butler's cabin, someone's watched that on a YouTube video. And hang on.
They might not have liked a couple of the lines, but
yeah, there's definitely going to be a photo of you somewhere at Augusta. Don't let him in.
Cross over the face. Yeah.
You and everyone else that's tried to smuggle a phone in.
Yeah.
So, are there any reactions that have come from the players that you've sort of sung songs about, or any events that you've sung songs about that involve them, that have made you sit up and go, "Wow, what is going on here?" Sort of, why am I getting this reaction?
I mean, actually, a lot. It's the honest answer. A lot, especially in that first year. There were so many times where I'd put a song out, and then maybe not the subject of the song, but someone else on tour would say, "Oh, I love this," or whatever. I'd like do a song about. I can't remember. I think it was my Victor Dubuisson one, and then later that day, it was like there was Ian Poulter saying, "Oh, this is great." There was Nick Faldo, I think, said, "Oh yeah, I love this." There's all these names Nick
Faldo is quite a big fan of you, isn't he?
He's a couple of times that he's he's sort of retweeted my songs, which is I mean,
that must
crazy.
Be quite a big moment for you.
Yeah,
I think I'd be took aback if Sir Nick was.
Yeah, I mean, all these ones are pinch yourself moments, really. But then the best one of all has got to be Ben Ahn when I did the song about him. And then he got the lyrics to the chorus engraved on his wedge, which I now have got in my outhouse at home.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah, so the chorus is Benny Ahn, he putts like he's got glass eyes, and he got his wedge, he got his Vokey wedge stamped with those words. And I sent him a message about 6 months later, and I said, because I know how quickly they get through wedges, right?
Yeah.
So I said, "Have you still got that wedge? Would you mind, would you mind sending? I know it's a cheeky request. Would you mind sending it over?" And he said, "Oh, actually, my caddy is from the UK. But next time he's over, he'll bring it with him." And he did. And he
incredible.
Yeah. So that's sitting at home, and that's like I need some way to kind of display it. I haven't found a way to. I feel like I need to do it justice.
Have you spoke to the wife about that?
Yeah, well, that's going to be the next challenge, isn't it?
You're not putting that up in the living room. So move all these kids' certificates out the way. Look at this. That is a great story. To be fair, that is not what I was expecting. I mean, it's quite a weird one.
Yeah.
Obviously, so far, the format is you put out a YouTube video, everyone watches it, and sort of you get a reaction from the golfing world about it. But obviously, you've also gone to America. You've been approached by the US Open, President's Cup, PGA Golf.
It's crazy, isn't
tour
it?
show in Orlando. I think that's when we actually spoke to you. I think you were in Orlando that weekend.
Yes.
So how is all that sort of stuff, and realistically, what's the plans? I mean, I'm guessing you were never expecting any of that.
No, not at all. Not one bit.
All of a sudden now you're the go-to guy for the tour, and I'm sure many more events will be looking to add Sam Harrop to the
that'd be good, wouldn't it? If you're listening. It was weird. I mean, the first one was the USGA. Got in touch about the US Open in 2021. Or was it 22? Oh God, it was 21. Yeah, it was 21.
Yeah.
And they said, we'd like you to come out to Torrey Pines. We're gonna have a stage on the side of the course, and you can do some songs at the end of each day's play. We're kind of wrapping up what's happened. And there was two things that struck me. At first, it was like, wow, is this a dream? And then secondly, I was like, how am I going to turn around a song in literally about 2 hours? But as it happened, because of COVID and stuff, I couldn't get over there, so we ended up having to do it virtually. So I did 3 songs virtually. I did a kind of preview songs, obviously I had time to kind of work on before the event. I had one at the halfway point, which I did have to turn around very quickly.
That's a bit of a nightmare.
And then I had one at the winner's song at the end for John Rahm, which again I had to sort of put together like really quickly. So that was the hardest gig I've ever done in terms of having to put those songs together so quickly. But also that was amazing, like such a huge a huge organisation and such a huge tournament to actually end up doing some kind of official
fantastic
songs.
Major as well, and to be asked by the US Open, I mean that's the USGA. I mean they're notoriously the sticklers, aren't they? They want their tournament won on a plus number.
That's right.
I love that.
Yeah, I like it as well. Yeah.
I don't want -23 winning majors. I want +1 because it shows it's been a horrific week.
Right with you. Yeah.
Especially as a high handicap golfer.
Yeah.
Because you watch him and you're like, I could have done that.
Yeah.
I could have duffed that.
We can all do that. Yeah.
So obviously you've had some requests. President's Cup as well. You actually went to the President's Cup.
Yeah. So that was an incredible experience. Yeah. So that all came about because Trevor, this is another weird pinch yourself moment. Trevor Immelman sent me a message and he said, I'd like you to do a song about my international team. And this was about a year before the President's Cup. And I was like, absolutely, I'll totally do it.
Yeah.
And I said to him, look, if there's any way that I can get out there and do the song, maybe I can do the song in a team room or something, that would be an amazing experience for me. If there's any way you can make that happen. And he was like, I don't know if I can, for various reasons, but he said, why don't you speak to the PGA Tour and see if they'll somehow support it.
Yeah.
So I managed to get in touch with someone at the PGA Tour and had a couple of meetings with them, and the idea in the end was I'll do a song for both teams. That way it's kind of fair, there's that kind of parity, and then I can go and then perform them on the first tee in this huge sort of built out stadium they've got before the players tee off. So.
How was that?
Absolutely unreal. Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. I've never been as nervous in my life, I'm honest, but I got through it.
It sounds nerve-wracking. Really here now, I can absolutely appreciate you must have been 5 times nervous than what I can imagine.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I was, but I got through it, and it was amazing. It was such an adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
When you're kind of doing the song, and then I do a certain line. There was a line about when JT slams his beer in the ground, which obviously he'd done at the Ryder Cup, and then this big cheer goes up, in the song. So it really
got a good reaction then.
It really did. So that was an amazing experience. And then on that same trip, I got to sit down with some of the players.
I've seen them interviews.
To get the songs, to put the songs together.
How was that?
Which was great, and again, surreal, kind of meeting these people like literally face to face. As far away, as you are from me now. And they're actually slightly longer interviews. I sat down with each of them for about sort of 5 minutes or so. So there's other stuff that hasn't actually kind of been released, but the only bit that people have seen is kind of that bit really where I get them to sing and a bit around the song. But that was
JT was not singing, was he?
He was not.
He was not.
But it's funny actually because a couple of people messaged me and sort of said, he comes across a bit, he comes across as a bit of a dick, and I was like, he really wasn't though.
No,
he was so nice about it and funny. And then kind of the way it was edited down made it seem like he was like, no, I'm not singing. But
I feel like he gets a lot of that. I feel like he's one of them people who in public, everyone that's ever spoken to him or anyone that's on the tour always says great guy.
Yeah.
And then you see a clip of him and you're like, ooh.
Yeah, I know. It's weird how maybe the way he comes across on TV. I don't know, but yeah, for me. And then the third thing that happened, which again I'll explain more about the JT thing, was on the night, 2 nights before the tournament. they had this VIP reception in the hotel that all the players were staying in, and they got me to perform both songs there. All the players are there with the wags in this room. It's literally just them, the wags, a few corporate sponsors, and then some like high-end people like Jay Monahan and like Seth Warren,
the tour commissioner.
Like yeah, I mean all of that. It's all the kind of real bigwigs. And I'm doing these two songs, and then just before I get up, I'm literally walking up there, and I go past JT. At this point, I'm feeling really nervous, really nervous, because maybe even more nervous than I was for the actual performance on in the stadium, because I get more nervous when it's a smaller crowd that are going to be watching you,
intense,
rather than this kind of slightly bigger crowd where they're kind of some people are watching, some people are just cheering. So I was really nervous, and I walked past JT and I said, "Mate, give me some words of encouragement because I need them right now." And he's like, "Mate, you're going to smash it. You'll be fine," which really actually helped because it really like settled me.
So JT was your caddy.
And then afterwards I went and I said, "Oh, thanks so much for that." And we chatted for about 5 minutes, and we talked about how like nerves and how they affect it. And he said, "Oh, everyone feels nervous. If you don't, I feel nervous. When I go out for a tee shot on the Ryder Cup or President's Cup or whatever. It's just how you kind of control those nerves and what you do." And I remember him saying, like, when you see people on the first tee of the Ryder Cup, there's a reason that they pretty much always hit driver, because it's a lot easier when you're nervous to hit a drive, get a solid contact with a driver than it is with a 3-iron or whatever. Which is quite interesting, because I kind of thought, so they obviously do feel it, but they can just control it a lot better than.
That's why there's no par threes on the first hole of many Ryder Cups for that reason. Yeah. Imagine that pitching wedge in your hand. So I mean, I can't believe that JT was your caddy. To be fair, that's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant words of encouragement. Yeah. Talking to you about anything but singing. Yeah. Funniest moment for you then of the last few years? Obviously, there's plenty of pinch yourself moments where you've gone, "What is this world that I've landed in, and how has this happened?" Yeah. But are there any moments that stand out for you as being like particularly funny, humorous moments where you're like, "What is going on here?" Then.
I mean, honestly, I hate to repeat myself, but it was that Ben Arn thing, because I remember when I'd just done that song, and it was getting like people seemed to really like it, and then I just played around at golf, and I was walking off the 18th hole, and I just checked my phone, and then there's this picture from him that he's posted on Twitter of this wedge with the lyrics, and I was just like, I was just absolutely cackling, because it was hilarious, but also I was like, that's so weird. So bizarre.
No, that is brilliant. So golf obviously is now trying to diversify itself and make itself more in tune with the rest of the world. Like I say, it's going away from the traditionalist, more towards the modern day. Let's try and get more people involved in golf, which is great. Yeah. And Netflix have jumped on board with that, with their sort of Drive to Survive style, full swing. Interesting. Very interesting documentary. Obviously, of all years they could have chosen to follow the PGA Tour, and in particular golfers like Ian Poulter around, and Brooks Koepka. Have you seen it, and sort of what's your biggest takeaways from that documentary?
Yeah, I've seen it twice over, and I mean, me personally, I absolutely love it, because I love seeing the kind of the golfers kind of behind the scene or outside of the ropes, because you don't really get to see them. You only ever seen them on the course, or you might see a little interview afterwards where you don't really get a real insight.
They're always corporate, aren't they, golfers?
Exactly. They can't really say much, or they're talking about the round. So actually, as soon as you see those people outside of that, I really like it. And obviously, they know there's cameras around, so you never know quite how much of it is kind of for the cameras or how much is just that genuine. But I love seeing that side of them. And my biggest takeaways are, I mean, Joel Dame and Gino's caddy, that episode I thought was brilliant.
That's my favourite episode. I've watched it. It's my favourite episode.
Good choice. Yeah, it's just so. I mean, they're both so relatable, and because he's kind of like he's not in the kind of the top 10 or whatever. I think he's ranked 17th.
Well, I think his quote was, "Someone's got to be the 70th best golfer in the world. It might as well be me." Exactly,
which is a great quote. But he's very kind of self-deprecating, isn't he? And he kind of comes across as like this guy who. He's obviously a supremely talented golfer, but he still kind of doubts his own ability, which you can kind of like.
And he's been through some shit as well to get to where he is, and it's like how he's dealt with the adversity to get to the level.
Exactly.
Like, oh my god! And
cancer survivor. It's just everything about his story is kind of inspirational and also pretty amazing. And the other thing I love about that episode is the episode is called Imposter Syndrome, which is something that I feel every day when I'm doing stuff like getting a message from like a like from Nick Faldo, or like I'm meeting Max Homer or whatever, all these things. It's like imposter syndrome is just my life at the moment.
That seems to be mentioned quite a lot on our podcast. Maybe the people we're approaching, they've all said the same thing so far. They've all said, yeah, I'll get massive imposter syndrome. So, maybe we should have called the podcast
you call
imposter
it that,
syndrome. Couple of points, imposter syndrome. So like I say, it's good to see golf getting the coverage it deserves. I mean, one of the moments that I found quite funny was during, I think it was the Ian Poulter episode, is the choice of music, and you would have absolutely picked up on this being a musician, is Big Bag of Money.
Yeah.
when the Live Tour is announced, and obviously all of the golfers are going over to England to play in the first Live Tour event.
Yeah. There's some good music choices in the whole series. Actually, yeah, that's probably
I think that was the best. It was the sort of the creme de la creme. Are we going to see Sam Harrop in season 2?
I doubt it, to be honest. I mean, it would be great, wouldn't it?
Netflix, but I think if you're listening.
The only way I could see it happening is if someone, if I'd done a song about someone and they happened to be filming them when they were watching it, which I think is very unlikely. So,
you never know. I mean, I think to be fair, it's quite a strange one because they just pick random golfers, don't they?
Yeah.
There's a top few, but then there's like a few others.
There's a couple of
down the list. I mean,
so you never know, but that'd be cool, wouldn't it, to tick off the Netflix box?
Yeah, that's got to be the next step. Well, actually, to be fair, I guess the next step for you, and I don't know if you've been approached. Obviously, I know nothing about this. Is Ryder Cup?
Yeah,
Team Europe. You've got to be writing the song for Team Europe.
Yeah, I mean, again, if you're listening, no. So I have actually had a meeting with the Ryder Cup people about this, and I can't say anything because nothing has been confirmed.
No exclusives this week.
Unfortunately not. But that's my idea, is to try and do a team song. And it's whether or not, I think ultimately the decision lies with Luke himself as to whether or not he wants that. I think everything is all. Obviously, I could just do one off my own back.
Well, Luke loves America, so Luke, he can do both teams.
Yeah, I think. But you know what I realise is maybe I think I need to lean into the Europe thing rather than trying to do both. President's Cup it kind of worked because it was like I was completely neutral, on paper.
You can't be right in the American.
But with that, I have to. Yeah, I've got to stick with the European, I think. But yeah, so I think if it's going to be anything that the Ryder Cup, if it's going to be out there doing the song there, or I know in Team Room or something, then
I've absolutely no doubts you're going to Rome at the end of September. I mean, to be fair, if they are listening, a couple of pints, I'm more than happy to go as well. We're happy to be there. We want to interview players, fans.
Yeah. No, it would be incredible, and touch wood, it may just happen, but not yet. As I say, nothing is confirmed yet. I've just put out the early feelers on that.
I can't fault it. Like I say, I mean, even if not this one, next one,
maybe in the future.
Back to America.
Who knows? Yeah.
2028 is in Hazeltine in Minnesota.
That'll be a good one.
Yeah, I'm hoping that by then this podcast takes me to that one way or another.
Yeah.
Touch wood. Just going back to Full Swing as well, one thing I really liked is the episode where Matt Fitzpatrick is followed around.
Yeah.
And when he's leading at the PGA, it's after day 3, he's got the golf journalist who went to college with.
Dan Rappaport.
Yes.
The US Open, you mean? But yeah.
No, it was the PGA.
Oh, sorry, the one before. Oh, yes, yeah, I'm with you.
He comes in and he turns to him and goes, "Oh, you're going to bottle it anyway tomorrow."
Oh, yeah.
Which I was like, I bet he hated himself the next day.
Yeah. Of course, yeah. They followed that first, and then the US Open, which of course he won. Yeah.
But I quite liked the sort of dynamic where Matt Fitzpatrick opened the door to him and went, "Oh, Netflix are here." To be honest, I forgot they were here.
Yeah.
You're like, what, a full camera crew sort of coming around.
And was that was where Thomas Peters was there as well, right?
Yes, that's right. Thomas Peters was just sat on the breakfast bar, just like chilling. But obviously, I mean, that whole sort of dynamic where they've got Matt Fitzpatrick the week that he won the US Open.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
What an incredible guy! What an incredible golfer.
Very, very kind of, again, very sort of down to earth. Not at all. You wouldn't think that he was whatever rank he is in the world now. I couldn't tell you. He must be floating around the 10-15 mark. But you wouldn't think. You wouldn't think that from when he's interviewed, or he just comes across as just like kind of.
I think, to be fair, that's quite a tradition with the English golfers.
Yeah, you're right. Actually,
there's not many that I look at that I go, Oh, he's a big head. You know, he's
maybe Poulter.
Poltz is all. He's just Poltz, I mean.
Yeah. That's right.
He's good. I mean, he's like he's larger than life, and he always has been.
Yeah.
Anyone that wears some of the things that he wears on golf courses, I mean,
that's a fair point. Yeah.
He's often gone and dressed like a jockey. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what are you doing here? But I think that's like the thing with like, particularly the Sheffield boys like Willett and Fitzpatrick. I mean, when Danny Willett won the Masters, like for me, I was like in my element, because everything about him winning that major was like, it just felt like he'd just won, you know, the local parks championship.
Yeah.
He was there in the green jacket at Wimbledon.
Yeah.
Like, Danny, you are taking the piss there, mate.
That's true. They are. I think a lot of the English guys are quite, you know, like Tommy Fleetwood is the same, right?
Although he plays golf with Pep Guardiola.
Oh right, yeah,
so,
of course, yeah.
It's his golfing buddy, apparently. So.
It's nice, isn't it?
It's not bad. Big bag of money in that episode of Full Swing. Obviously, that was referencing the breakaway tour from the PGA Tour. So if people aren't golf fans, apologies for watching this episode. However, the breakaway tour is called Live Golf. It's the Live Golf Tour or Live Golf League.
Yeah,
actually,
Live Golf League. Yeah.
Have you seen why they haven't got at Live Golf on Twitter?
Oh, this is like there's a young girl, isn't it?
Some young girl from Wales that wants to
30
lower
handicap or something.
Yeah, she wants to lower her handicap. So I think Live Golf is at Live Golf _league officially.
See, you would have thought they'd come in with a big offer to buy her Twitter handle. I love the fact maybe they came in and said we're going to give you 5 million. She's like, no, I'm all right.
Well, to keep that Twitter handle, not a chance. But yes, so Live Golf has appeared. It's effectively, it's like a European Super League style breakaway tour, which, you know, it's allowed golfers to relinquish their PGA Tour membership and break away from the daily grind.
Yeah.
To steal the phrase from yourself.
That's it, yes. Well remembered.
Oh, believe me, I've watched them videos a million times, because they get better every time I watch. There's little things I pick up. But yes, so Live Golf has come in and taken some of the best players in the world, not all of them, and put them in a new competition, a 54-hole setup, a little bit sort of different to the traditional golf format. Golf but louder is their terminology, and their ethos. And I think that there are definitely sort of reasons to change golf. There's certainly some credence in that argument, but ultimately, where do you sit with Live Golf is the first question, and then obviously we can sort of discuss further, because there's quite a bit to go at with.
There's so far to go with this, isn't there? I mean, I think, well, me from a personal perspective, someone who's been watching golf for, you know, regularly watching golf for 15 years or so, is I kind of, aside from the kind of the big team events like Ryder Cup, President's Cup, Solheim Cup, etc., I don't really see golf as a team sport. So I struggle with the whole team. I struggle with the team element. It just seems like it seems a bit forced. So
it's a strange dynamic, isn't it?
It's sort of strange, and I kind of understand why some people might like that. I don't know. Why some players might like kind of having that team element. And I guess I can see, if you're playing really badly, that every shot still means something. You know, even if you're still playing for your team. But for me as a viewer, I just can't quite get into that whole team thing. And then, I don't. What doesn't sit well with me personally is the people who've gone away to Live Golf and then have attempted to sue their ex-colleagues. You know, I just think that's just not a good look. So someone like, you know, there are people who you kind of think you've gone about this not a very good way, and there's other people you think, actually, you know, fair enough. You know, Dustin Johnson went off, took the money. You basically haven't heard from him since. He's just got on with it, cracked on.
That's always been his way, though.
It's the way he is, right? Richard Bland, he's however old he is now, 50 or whatever. Because he won that event on the European Tour, he had the opportunity, you know, that he was
at the Belfry, the British Masters.
Exactly, at the Belfry, local one for you. And then, so he had that, you know, obviously got the offer in, and probably at his age, you know, there's got to be a very tempting offer, right? And again, he's gone away. You haven't really heard from him again. He's, you know, taking money. Fair enough. But then it's the people who've kind of tried to sort of sue their ex-colleagues so that they can keep playing on another tour. And that's another question, whether or not you think they should be able to play both. But all the same, it just doesn't really sit that well, because, you know, you've taken a a huge pay rise to go and play there. Just take the money, just do it. It's fine. But
it can be a little bit unsavoury in terms of how it's been done, I think.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Ultimately, so live forever, grow in the game. You've made sort of no exceptions to making sure the Live Tour gets the Sam Harrop treatment. Sort of, with regards to what you've been saying, I mean, I think those 2 videos are excellent, and I think that you've sort of hit the key quite nicely in terms of understanding where the mood is of traditional sort of golf enthusiasts and actually understanding, right, okay, what can happen here. But do you think it's good for the game of golf?
That's a tricky one, because there are elements of it that you kind of think, okay, I can see where they're going. Like, for example, the initial idea, I think, of trying to play more globally, I sort of agree with. Although, as it happens, as it's shaken out, they've ended up most of their events have been in the US. So that didn't quite happen as it was kind of sold initially. So that I can kind of see. The kind of thing with changing it, like having kind of music and trying to make it
should
more.
Be right up your street, shouldn't it?
Yeah, you think so, wouldn't you? But then it's kind of weird. I was asked this recently about how do you think about kind of music on the golf course, and truth is, I've never really played. I've always, I alluded to it earlier on. I quite like the serenity of around the golf, where all you hear is the sounds of nature and maybe the occasional shout of 4 if you're playing with me. But that's all. You don't really have this kind of. I've always been one who just likes playing without music. So, the bell ringing. So yeah, I can see why that might appeal to some people, like a younger audience or whatever. I don't really see any huge evidence as yet that it is kind of growing the game, but it's very early days, isn't it? It's hard to kind of judge it on the basis of 1 year.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that any sort of breakaway tour from anything was always going to have teething issues, and it's going to be. I mean, I'm intrigued. Like, I've got no real sort of opinion on it, and I'm hoping that this year we go to a live golf event. We're actually when we are travelling, we are going to Australia. We're not going to be too far away from Adelaide. When there's a live golf event there.
Oh, okay.
So we might potentially be going to a live.
Is that the only one? There's just one in Australia, is there?
Just one, yeah. It's just Adelaide.
That one,
so I mean, obviously, it's not weekly events like the PGA Tour is. I think that's the beauty of the PGA Tour is that if your favourite golfer's playing on the Sunday, and they've knackered it, they're not going to win. On the following Thursday, there's a good chance they'll be out again, and you'll be able to sort of watch again. And I think with events that are sort of a month apart, it can be a little bit more stagnated. You lose a little bit of interest. Maybe that could be something. I mean, I think they have upped the events. It's gone from 8 to 14 this year. I just the only thing for me with live is 54 holes is not a golf tournament.
Yeah, I mean that's another slight kind of issue that I have with it. That it just sort of feels like when you look at like the Champions Tour, when you're over 50, you play 3 rounds. So it does feel, people joke about it being a retirement tour, but you can kind of see where they're going with it. You're sort of cutting down the holes. It does part of what it takes to win a golf tournament is you have to grind it out for 72 holes, right? And probably by the end of those 72 holes, you're physically probably feeling quite fatigued, right? So
and you've also got the shotgun start, which when you're watching, I find difficult to follow because
you don't know who's where.
What am I looking at? So who's shooting where? And it's like, right, let's have a look at Ian Pollard. Hang on, let's go for the Lee Westwood. Let's go over to Dustin Johnson. And it's like, well, hang on, what's going on? I think with a traditional golf tournament, you know that your leaders are going out last.
Yeah.
And you know that your sort of coverage is going to be of good shots in between, really, for other golfers.
Well, yeah, there's that, and there's also the fact that with when someone creates a golf course, a golf architect, they look at the fact, you're starting on this hole and you're finishing on this hole, and you try and build it towards, and often you find that you'll end up with you might have a difficult stretch on maybe 16, 17, and maybe 18 as like a reachable par 5 just for that thing. So when you sort of play these holes out of order, there's kind of less logic to the round. Again, it doesn't quite.
Well, imagine doing it at the Masters, playing amen corner first 3 holes.
Well, exactly that. Or you're standing up on the 18th tee for your first shot. I mean, you imagine that.
Jordan Spieth.
Fancy that.
If Jordan Spieth was going on to the 12th as his 18th, no chance. He's never winning another tournament. Full stop. Love you, Jordan. He's a great golfer, by the way. What a putter.
Oh yeah, no, he's again, he's just one of those people who's really exciting to watch. He's in certainly my top 5 favourite players to watch because he always does something that you're not expecting. And again, he's one of these people who hit it in the trees and then hit it to 3 feet and then missed the putt.
Great golfer, and he's another one that comes across as a great fella. Like, I mean, all the stuff he does off the course. I mean, like I say, he's one of my favourite golfers.
He's a really nice guy, and you know what? And then this sounds like I'm sort of name dropping now, but when I was at the President's Cup,
did you meet him?
I interviewed him, but then I also met his dad. Okay. Someone introduced me. Said, "Oh, do you know Sean Spieth?" And I was like, "No." And then we had a chat for sort of 5-10 minutes. He was a lovely guy, you know, and he was just about to sort of start following. This just before he teed off, and he was just about to follow him around for the 18 holes. But yeah, he's just a really nice guy, and nice family, I think, and he's very easy to get on with.
Yeah, I can totally believe that. Latest song from yourself is involving the Live Tour.
Yeah,
everyone knows the Aces. That is so. There's a comment for non-golf people. There's a comment that was made by Bubba Watson, who is now a golfer with the Live Tour. He was on the PGA Tour. He's won a few majors as Bubba. Where he said that his son turned to him and said, "What, you've never heard of the Aces, Dad? Everyone knows the Aces." As if it was some sort of, high-profile sports team that had been around for years, won everything, when in reality it's been around for about 12 months.
Less
than 12 months. This was one Nick Faldo retweeted as well. I did notice that on your Twitter. I haven't stalked you, I promise you. I do naturally follow you. I just clock things, Sam. So, I mean, looking into that, sort of everyone knows the Aces, which, I mean, it's a fantastic song. And I think my line that's the favourite line from that song is the Cowboys once were famous, the Yankees won 5 straight.
I mean, well, because in that same quote, that's what he'd said. He said, he said something along the lines of, I can't remember the exact quote, but something like,
mentioned the Cowboys.
He said like the Yankees, like the Dallas Cowboys, everyone knows the Aces, So it was like he was putting them in the same bracket, which was what made it so ridiculous.
I'm sure the New York Yankees and the Dallas Cowboys are delighted to be involved in that ilk of company.
Exactly. But the funniest thing, you mentioned that Nick Faldo retweeted. The funniest thing really was that the Range Goats have got their own page now, and they retweet it.
It's almost like anything involved in the Live Tour will get that retweeted. So looking into that, do you think that Live can gain the attention of the golfing world in the same way that a major championship in traditional golf, be it the Masters, the US Open, the PGA, or the British Open, the Open? Quick nod to the Americans there. But do you think that the Live Golf Tour can gain that attention in the same way as those traditional majors, or do you think it's very much a case of we're not sure how long this can last and whether it can pick up, what is required to make it a success?
I don't think it'll ever get to the level of the major events. No. Whether or not it can reach a point where it's on a par with the DP World Tour or PGA Tour. Even I'm doubtful if I'm honest, but it all depends. Well, a lot of it depends on whether or not they start getting ranking points. Because I think that's probably what's holding a lot of people, a lot of players back from going. And then aside from that, whether or not they, the backers of it decide actually that they want to keep going down this road, because they may come to a point where actually it's not getting the traction that we wanted. We're going to pull the plug on it, which could happen. That could happen in a year. It could happen in 3 years.
Day, couldn't it? I mean,
it could. Technically.
You never really know. I mean, as I say, I sort of reserve my judgment on the Live Tour until I've seen it, until I've understood it properly, and I'm like, well, I've got a preconception of what I think it is and what I think it will do for the game. But I need to see it. And
that's fair enough.
A corporate opportunity to go there.
If you're listening.
So Saudi, if you are listening, so I'm sure there's some blokes in Jeddah that are definitely subscribed to our podcast. Major championships then? Golf is all about majors. It's all about winning the majors. There's plenty of good golfers that haven't won majors. What's your favourite major championship?
For me, and I apologise to my fellow Brits, but my favourite major is the Masters. Always has been. You're in
my territory there.
Okay, good.
I love Augusta. Augusta National is a golf course I've never been to, but I could probably tell you every hole. and that's. I mean,
do you know all the nicknames as well of all the holes? That's the question. I don't.
Oh no, I don't know. I know a few of them.
Yeah, we've got like Dogwood and like
the azaleas.
That's probably as far as I can go. It's a special course for sure.
It's one of them. I think sort of as a kid playing the Tiger Woods PGA Tour game on Xbox.
Yeah.
There was a Masters edition came out one year, and I bought it, and I must have spent so many hours on that game that like every sort of awful shot you can play from the trees at Augusta, I had a bit of. I mean, how can you have sympathy for it if you're not playing it?
Yeah.
But I had some sort of idea. I was like, wow, this is hard.
Yeah.
And even on a game, it seemed rock hard, but. Every April, it's one of my favourite events to watch because the pure sporting drama that comes from them couple of days, it is genuinely unparalleled, and I find it difficult. Sort of George, who films the pods with us, he isn't a golf fan, but I can't explain to non-golf fans enough how much drama there is from a sporting capacity, how intense it can actually get.
I agree with you, especially that Sunday Augusta. It always is, and it's everything from you get those roars that kind of echo around the course, and even when you're watching on TV, you hear a sort of roar in the distance. Something special has happened, and it's just I love that.
I love guessing. And you're like, oh, maybe Justin Rose has just eagled one.
Exactly, exactly that. And you kind of know that most years there's a hole-in-one on the 16th on the Sunday, isn't there?
There's always.
So there's always that kind of
traditional pin position.
And the other thing that I like about it, and I haven't been there, and it's a life ambition just to go and watch it one day.
Yeah.
Some people say a life ambition to play it. I know that's never going to happen, but just to actually go and watch it would be.
Both of them things are on my list.
There you go. But it's just the fact that I know we kind of joke about it, but the fact that the people aren't all there with their mobile phones. People are there and they're watching. I love that, and they have this. There's this sort of ultimate respect that they kind of have to have the page. If you don't, then you boot it out. But because everyone has that, it kind of
never
makes
coming
it
back.
Exactly. Yeah.
See ya.
But because of that, because they have these sort of maybe slightly stringent, what people might see as stringent rules, it does make it feel kind of special for that reason, and it makes it feel different. And then when you're out there, of course, if you want to get like a beer or a sandwich or whatever, it's at really reasonable prices. They don't have to hike it up like all the other tournaments. Where you're paying like whatever it is, $12 a beer. There it's like $3 or something. It's crazy. It's
mad. I mean, Augusta National, obviously, Dustin Johnson, I think a couple of years ago when he won it, he was asked in the pre-round interviews. He was asked, what's your favourite thing about Augusta? And his answer was the sandwiches. You're like, what? Really?
Pimento cheese sandwich. Yeah.
But like I say, it's a great course. I mean, I think one of my favourite things is that you pick up, particularly from the commentary in Britain, is when you get like Butch Harmon on commentary, because he knows that every acre of that, sort of them grounds, and when someone smashes one down the second on the left, and he's saying they should put a delta checking desk down there because there's no way back. You're like, incredible, and I think that's where that tournament, and I mean it's weird because in reality, to people who aren't golf fans, you're winning a bit of apparel. You're winning a jacket. Not a very nice jacket, really.
You do get a trophy as well, but no one ever sees that.
No, it's all about the green jacket. Yeah. And imagine turning up with your mates to the pub in a green jacket.
You would totally do it though, wouldn't you, if you won it?
Oh, if it's got the Augusta National logo on.
I see. You just mean generally.
I'm just on about. I see. If you turned up in a green jacket, what are people saying to you?
That's a fair point. Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. It's almost like making the most ridiculous thing like the holy grail in golf.
Yeah, that's true.
Favourite course for majors?
Yeah,
exclude Augusta.
Exclude Augusta,
because
okay.
I know Augusta's like. I mean, you're going to say Augusta, like I would.
Yeah, I
get rid of that.
I would have done.
What are you saying? I've even made sure that I put excluding Augusta. I knew what you were going to say, Sam.
Yeah, probably Pinehurst. I think when that hosted the US Open, I thought it was really interesting. It seemed like a really interesting course, a great course to host a major. The one that Keimer won.
Yeah.
Whatever that was, but yeah.
A few years ago, I think 2017, maybe.
I reckon it may even be earlier than that.
Possibly.
But yeah, I'd probably that one.
Yeah. I mean, the beauty with like sort of the other majors is they do rotate the courses.
Yeah.
You had like Chambers Bay in 2015.
Yeah.
That was an interesting major where you've got greens that are being described as being like putting on broccoli. It's a municipal, and I think what I like about the USGA is they do mix it.
Yeah,
they are very happy to sort of go, right, okay, we're going Chambers Bay one year, then we're going to go to Oakmont the next.
Yeah,
and it's very much sort of like right, next year's winged foot. It's all a bit different every year.
They have some really good courses on the roster, even the ones coming.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I had a second favourite major, unless the podcast takes us to another one, PGA, the Open, but it's the US Open. USGA absolutely smash it. I think that they get their course selections right. They understand, sort of, they want to make it a test.
Yeah.
If you want to win that big trophy, you're going to have to play well.
Yeah, it's different to the others in that sense that they kind of really, it's a different level, isn't it?
100%. This year, 4 majors to play. You've got the Masters next month. You've got PGA, then the US, and then the Open.
Yeah.
Who is going to win the 4 majors this year, Sam?
I could say so. I put this shout out a few months ago now, where I kind of thought I've decided who's going to win them all, and I could be completely wrong. But I'm going Spieth again at Masters.
Okay.
Because he's been rounding into form. He's quietly showing a bit of form, and he absolutely loves that place. He's just like
apart from the 12th.
Maybe I can just skip the 12th. But yeah, I like Spieth. USPGA, I think Scheffler. I think he's playing so well at the moment.
God's on his side as well.
Exactly. You can't underrate that. And then Open, I'm going Hovland. He went obviously very, very close last year.
Yeah.
And I just think his weakness is chipping, right? That's the one place that you can get away with just putting your way around.
Yeah.
So hopefully not as exposed. And then for US, sorry, I've done them in the wrong order. US Open Max Homa, because it's local course where he shot. I think he holds a course record there, or he shot very low round in his junior years. Obviously, his record in California is amazing. So yeah.
No British winners this year?
Unfortunately not.
Ooh.
and most people would say, Rahm's not going to win one this year. And,
to be fair.
This is, like I say, I'm probably going to be way wrong, and probably they'll be shared between Rahm and McIlroy, and they're going to look
Can't
stupid.
wait, 4 British winners then.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I think Fitzpatrick could be close on 1 or 2 of them.
Yeah.
I mean, the one for me that always strikes me as being someone that could go and win a major again is Danny Willett. And he went close in the Masters last year.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is about the guy. I mean, to be fair, Justin Rose is similar. It's like Augusta's a golf course that seems to just suit a few British golfers, and they play it differently. They do play it differently to the Americans. They see it differently, and I think that maybe it's too much time dicking about in the woods, on shit golf courses here.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? I think you're right. There are a few certain golfers, and it's one of those courses where you have certain players, some Brits, some not Brits, who just love it and just keep. Phil Mickelson's won it 3 times, Bubba Watson's won it twice.
Sousa left-hander.
Spieth nearly won it twice. You have all these kind of. It's just one of those courses that just has a certain skill set that it really, lends itself to. So I think it's always one you kind of look at, kind of course form. So yeah, Willett is probably quite a good outsider for the Masters any year that he's, that he's coming in half decent form.
Yeah, he's not doing too badly.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask you, to be fair, is obviously we've talked about golf and non-golf fans probably have turned off.
Yeah.
Are there any other sports in Sam Harrop's life? Has there ever been any other sports in Sam Harrop's life? Or
probably. So I used to play a bit of basketball, and I used to follow it reasonably closely.
NBA?
Less so nowadays. Yeah, NBA. Yeah, less so
team?
now. Miami Heat was my team. I think back in the day when I used to really support him, it was like when you had like Tim Hardaway was playing, who I used to love. He's like my favourite player.
Yeah.
So I kind of and I used I used to go on holiday to Florida with my family. So I kind of it was always like it made sense to
Miami Heat or Orlando Magic.
Exactly. And at that point you'd be like a glory hunter if you supported the Magic, because that was when like Shaq was playing for them and all that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's my team, by the way.
I've
only ever been to one NBA game.
And it was Orlando Magic.
Yeah.
Nice.
They lost, but
so yeah, basketball I'd say. I mean, football a little bit. Again, I don't don't follow it as closely as I used to.
Yeah.
I think it's mainly because I follow golf so closely. It's very hard to find time to follow too many sports. That's the truth. But
have you got a team? Have you got a football team?
So West Ham's would probably be my team. No particular reason. I just, again, when I was younger, I just kind of like, they were the team that I like watching, so I just decided.
Good colours. I mean, I'm a Villa fan myself, so it's the right
squint
colours.
And then it might be,
So did you play much other sport, or was it just a case of just literally?
Yeah, so a bit of basketball at school, a little bit of football, tennis.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, sorry, I haven't mentioned tennis. Sorry, I do actually play tennis regularly now. So
I've got my tennis racket in the car. Do you want to fancy a game?
Yeah, I would actually. So, so tennis. That's the other one that I play regularly. And I used to play like in the school team and stuff. But yeah, that's it.
Good sports. I'll be fair. Like you sort of, I mean, they're very similar to sort of like what I do.
Hand-eye sports.
Yeah, darts, tennis, table
darts,
tennis.
Of course, yeah. Sorry, I forgot the darts qualifies as a sport. Definitely, put me down for darts.
100%.
It really is. I love pub sports. That's kind of like that's where my wheelhouse. Pool, darts, 10-pin bowling, if that counts as a pub sport. I love them.
Like Skittle Alley.
Yeah, Skittles. Yeah, that's close, isn't it?
It counts. Coming on to the quickfire questions, which so far in this series haven't been that quickfire.
I'll try and keep it quickfire.
To be fair, they're good questions, I think.
Yeah.
But they're probably the quickfire questions, just called questions.
Yeah.
First one, what's your dream job now?
Dream job to be a first-year announcer, but in musical form.
Oh, okay. I like that. That would be brilliant.
Someone needs to make it happen.
Well, I mean, I've never even thought of that because it's normally just some old Scottish bloke.
Yeah.
Next to the cheer from.
Yeah. But imagine if you could just do a little snippet of a song for each person.
That would be brilliant, like a walk-on, like a darts walk-on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I tell you what, you might be onto something there. Get Live Golf on the phone. they're definitely up for that. Although maybe not with the shotgun start.
Yeah, that's true. That wouldn't quite work, would it?
Be going between every tee. If you could pick a golf course that doesn't often host majors to hold a major, where would you pick?
Cypress Point.
Okay, very straight in with that answer.
Yeah. Just it looks like one of those courses. I'll put it up there with Augusta as somewhere that looks incredible. Just looks like out of this world good. Yeah. And I think people say that it's too short now to host a kind of tour event. Yeah. And it can't be stretched out because of the sort of plot the plot it's on. But it looks incredible. Yeah.
Fair play. I mean, that was quick fire. Favourite place that you've ever played golf?
Probably Swinley Forest. Here is in Surrey, or Berkshire border. I played last year. Amazing course. Yeah. I think it's like ranked in like top 30 in the country. It's
tough greens then.
Yeah, I mean, the whole course was tough, to be honest.
Favourite golfing moment for you could be as a fan, a player, or musician now as well?
It was making a hole-in-one August.
Oh, really?
In August last year, I made my first hole-in-one, and it will almost certainly be my last. But I just
How old were you?
Freak shot. No, it was last year.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was 40.
Yeah. 40. Yeah. Okay. That is a good achievement. I mean, I've played hundreds of par threes, and I've had balls roll past the cup, and you're like, oh no.
And I'd had my fair share of those, so like it was unreal to actually see one in the bottom of the cup.
What club did you use?
It was a 7-iron.
7-iron.
And I didn't even see it going because it was uphill. So I walked up there, and I was like, where is it? That moment you're like, nah, it can't be.
That moment of dread where you think it's rolled off somewhere.
Yeah. You immediately think, it could be in the hole, but no, there's no way it's in the hole. Check around the back, check around the sides, it's not there.
Brilliant. If you could go back to one day in your life, what would you pick?
God, that's a tricky one. But I honestly, you know what? I'd probably say
you can separate between golf and family as well. Because I know.
Well, you know what? I'm going to say golf one. I'm going to say that President's Cup first tee moment because I was so nervous. I didn't enjoy it as much as I would have liked to, or at least I didn't enjoy the build up to it. Like I was so nervous that I was fretting about how it was going to go. But I'd love to go in there. Exactly. Yeah. So I'd love to do it again, knowing it's going to be okay, and I don't need to be nervous and go and just really soak it up. So I'd love to relive that. Yeah.
Brilliant. So these 5 questions are 5 questions that we ask sort of generally across the podcast. We ask everyone, try to reword them where possible to make it make sense. Yeah. Top bit of advice that you could give anyone, and it could be about anything.
you know what, it's find your niche, right?
Yeah.
That's it. And it's not really something that I heard at all, but I sort of realised that that's what had happened to me, that I'd found my niche. You know, I wasn't really looking for my niche, but I found my niche, and now it's led to these incredible opportunities. So I think if there's something that you're good at, or you enjoy, you have a talent for, just try and find a niche version of it.
Yeah.
And sort of just lean into that and see where it takes you.
That's a good bit of advice, that is. I mean, like I said, we're still trying to find ours.
Yeah, you found your niche. This is it. This is your niche.
Hopefully. When it pays the bills, Sam, I'll tell you.
Yeah, okay.
If you could only do the same things all day, every day, forever, like a Groundhog Day type scenario, what would your day look like?
It would definitely involve a round of golf.
Yeah.
No question. I'll probably have I love a Sunday roast, probably my favourite meal. I have a Sunday roast with the family.
So it's Sunday every day?
Yeah, Sunday every day. Sunday roast every day. And then the afternoon, we talked about this a minute ago, but it would be like an afternoon of pub sports with my mates. We do some bowling, we play darts, we play pool, have a few drinks. And that does sound good. And then a curry to the end of the night.
sounds like a great day, that, Sam, to be fair. If you could change one thing about the world right now, what would it be?
It's going to sound like a real cop-out answer, but it's just world peace. Right.
To be fair,
take away the wars, just everyone get along,
It's a great answer. One that we have heard before.
Yeah, I thought it might be.
But also, to be fair, we normally, that question's quite loaded towards, you've got to use it to, enhance.
You've got to do something. You've got to do something better.
Personally, I'll be like, make myself a billionaire. Can I change one thing? My bank account.
That as well, both. But yeah.
You had the option, Sam. That's took away world peace, though. Admirable. This is a good question. This is probably quite pertinent to yourself. Go-to karaoke song, and is there any meaning behind it?
Yeah, you know what, the reason behind my go-to karaoke song is probably not one that most people would choose, but my go-to karaoke song is Under the Bridge by Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Great tune.
But the reason is purely that it sits really nicely in my vocal range. Okay. Because a lot of songs I love. But actually, when I sing them, I'm like, "Oh, that's a bit high, or that's a bit low."
Yeah.
That one just sits in the pocket. So that's the song that I end up doing. Like when I went to, again, this is going to sound like I'm name dropping, which I'm not trying to. But when I was at the President's Cup and I went for a few drinks with Colt Knost, and we went to a karaoke bar at the end of the night. And I go up to the thing and I say, she said, what song do you want to do? I said, can I do Under the Bridge? She was like, actually, someone just did that like 2 songs ago.
Oh, nightmare.
Do you choose something else? So I was like, oh gosh, you put me on the spot now. So I was like, I'll tell you what, I'll do Man in the Mirror, because I love that song. It's one of my favourite songs. But of course, when I chose that, I didn't realise that the chorus is really high, right? So the verse was fine. I was like, oh, this guy's all right.
White glove as well.
Yeah, everyone's probably thinking, yeah, this is okay. And I got to the chorus, and I'm like, I basically just turned the microphone back to the crowd. You do this bit. But Under the Bridge, that's the one.
That's a good choice, to be fair. Talking of karaoke bars, I'm not sure if you've been. Have you ever been to Universal in Orlando? Universal Studios?
Yeah, I have been to Universal, but I don't remember karaoke bar there.
City Walk has got what I would think is the best
karaoke
bar in the world.
I have to go
It's called Rising Star Karaoke Bar, and it's a full backing band.
Oh, cool.
And they've got like a list of songs that they can play.
Yeah.
And me and George went there last summer. It is incredible.
What song did you do?
So I wanted to do Wonderwall. So I went there last February and did Wonderwall.
Right.
And I was like, this works in America. They quite like it. Doing the full Liam Gallagher, arms behind the back, leaning
Stone
into
Island
the mic.
jacket.
Yeah, full on. But it turned out someone had already done that, so I ended up doing Shape of You by Ed Sheeran.
Oh, okay.
Which completely key change from that. Wonderwall, but it got a good reaction. I mean, I think if you go into Orlando, you've got to try and do a British
song. I didn't know they had that there. Is that a recent thing? Like, I
think it's been there a few years.
Okay.
But next time you go, it's definitely worth a visit, because
that sounds good. With a live band, that's cool.
Drinks are expensive, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
Final question from us, and this is sort of the motivation behind the podcast name originally and where it came from. 3 people, dead or alive, rather than be alive.
Okay.
Ideally, you don't want sort of dead Elvis in the corner.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You can bring him back to life. I'll give you that.
Okay.
That you would like to go for a couple of pints with.
Okay, so I'm going to go. So probably my biggest musical inspiration is Bruce Hornsby, if you know him. He's a guy who did The Way It Is. That's just the way it is.
Yes. Yes, I know the song.
So he, as a kind of piano singer-songwriter, it was always kind of like, when I kind of was trying to make it as a songwriter and failing, he was kind of my biggest inspiration. So I'd have to put him there, I think. And also, I think he likes a bit of golf as well. I know he's friends with Peter Jacobson, who's obviously a golfer. So maybe there's a sort of we could chat about golf. So I put him in there.
Yeah.
And then I'd have to have an actual golfer in there, and I'm torn with this one between a few. But
Tony's got to get that off, surely. I'm feeling.
The problem with Tony is that he doesn't drink, so you can't have a couple of pints for Tony.
That's the issue. Yeah.
Do they have to be a pint of beer, or can it be a pint of coconut water?
A couple of soda waters.
Right. Okay. Fine.
Soda and limes.
Let's make it Tony then. Tony Finau.
Okay. Yeah. Say if it was alcohol.
Yeah.
Tony, you have got the nod. But if it's purely alcohol, it's a night out on the piss.
Yeah. In that case, it's got to be Shane Lowry, right? Because once he's got a few beers aside him, he's going to be a great laugh, right? And it's going to be a late night. He's going to keep going. So yeah.
I think when he won the Open, some of them videos that came out after him winning the Open,
you see the videos, you think he'd be a good person to have a night out with. Yeah. And then the third one, and I'm going to have to go dead, I'm afraid, for this one. Is I'd bring my dad back to my dad unfortunately passed away a few years ago. I'd bring him back because he never knew about this kind of golf music thing and how everything's sort of taken off. So I'd love to have a couple of beers with him, and he'd probably like to he'd like to hear about what's happened.
Mate, that's a lovely way to end what has been a really enjoyable interview. Sam,
loved it.
Thanks for coming on to Couple of Pints podcast. Like I say, we wish you very much the best of success.
Likewise.
We hope to see you at the Ryder Cup, and we're there as well.
Yeah, that'll be good.
All being well.
You could share a couple of pints there.
Absolutely.
Maybe you get Shane along as well.
Shane, if you want to take us to the Marco Rose golf course, what's it called? Marco Simeone.
Yes,
It's Marco Rose. He's a football manager. If you want to take us to the Marco Simeone, that would be very appreciated, Shane. But yeah, so like I say, thanks for coming on, and we look forward to the next video. So
Thank you
very much.
Thanks very much.
Top man.